I guess it's part of being a grandparent, you gotta afford these. But that's okay, because Stephen's hard of hearing, too. Or maybe he's just mastered ignoring me. It's interesting that sometimes Steve and I are on the same page. He came upstairs this morning and he said, I'm going to talk about legacy and my grandparent. I'm like, that's what I wanted to say. So I quickly, luckily, had this little note that I wrote the day that our beautiful Harley was born. And so it's like a cheat note. I'll just read it. This is the day that we walked into the hospital room to meet her for the first time, and not only was my breath taken away, I was speechless, but what finally did come out was something that I sort of struggled because all my kids were there, and I looked at her, she looked at us, and she had this look of anticipation. There you are, finally, I get to meet you. And the first words that came out was like, oh my God, it's the most beautiful baby I've ever seen in my life. Little did I know that my own children were standing right there. So since then I've had to make up for it a little bit. And I do, but they do. And the only way to explain it is that after 36 hours of hard labor, there's nothing like just sitting back and praying and waiting for your daughter to have her first child. I had 36 hours of hard labor with Jake, and I think that was my biggest accomplishment in my life. You know, the degrees don't matter. It's about actually having your children start their own family, and then you see the legacy start to unfold. I always say how lucky I am that Owen reminds me of Jake every day. I can't wait for Stephen to get home so I can tell him, you're not going to believe what he said or how he was just like Jake. And last week when Stephen was out grilling, Owen has cowboy boots and just shorts, no top, and he's walking around slamming things, chasing the cat with a stick, and Stephen came up to me and he's like, this is the first time I felt like he was really like little Jake, you know? Jake was 3 when Stephen took over. Anyway, back to my note. When I was filled with this sense of awe and wonder, I realized that I was experiencing a holy moment when the baby was brought to us. And I think that that's part of the biggest gift that God gives us as grandparents, is these little glimpses of what the Holy Land, the Holy Ground, the heavens is going to be like when we finally leave, to meet Him face to face. Because there are no words to explain it. It's a gift. Not only do we have this gift that He gives us when we're with our own children, but when the grandchildren come, it's little glimpse of the unknown, of truly what it's going to be like in heaven. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that.
There is no better show and tell object than this baby right here. Now guys, I know today's the first day of NFL football. I'm not going to keep it a long time here. I'm going to keep it brief. I know you're worried about that. We are new grandparents. We don't have 9 grandchildren or great-grandchildren, so I don't feel like I really have a great position to, extol the virtues of being a grandparent, I can tell you that it is true love. You have your own children, you go, I understand what true love is when you have your own children, but actually it ratchets up a notch when you have grandchildren, because of course you can send those little buggers back home when you're done roughing them up. But I truly am blessed because number one, I do get to see my grandchildren virtually every day, which is an amazing blessing. They come to church in same church as I do. They have parents who were baptized 2 weeks ago. What a blessing that is. So as I thought about it, I said, wow, when you think things are going bad, start putting that in perspective with how God has aligned that for you. But it made me think about my own grandparents immediately. Grandparents Day. I don't even think of myself as a grandparent yet, really. I think of my own grandparents. And, well, I knew my grandparents. My mother's dad was a major influencer in my life. And so I just want to talk a little bit about him. His name was Ed Hillenbrand. And he grew up in the Tully, Otisco Lake area up by Syracuse. And he shaped me as a young child quite a bit. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. He was a Lutheran, but a non-practicing Christian. And he taught me how to fish. He taught me how to hunt. He taught me how to swim. He taught me how to yell at people who cut him off with his car. He was amazing, and I really looked up to him. He really did. He'd take me out for long drives, and he would just basically teach me about the world. To this day, he probably was the most influential male in my life, even though my father's amazing. There was a certain thing about having a grandfather like that. It wasn't the same, Same thing with me, like my dad was in my life every day, but my grandfather, man, when he came in, it was like a whirlwind, What my grandfather was, though, was he was, first of all, he was pretty much self-employed his whole life. Where I got that from. He was one of the best wallpaper hangers and painters you would ever get. If you could get him, you were lucky. Okay, that's who he was. He dug his own basement with a shovel, and I have a picture of him with his shirt off, going like this, and I use it every day to empower my own energy as I look at him and a smile on his face. Yeah, dug my own basement with a shovel. He was a stubborn old German guy, but he was a man of service. He was a member of the volunteer Amber, New York Fire Department. And when he was 76 years old, he was on the front page of one of the sections of the Syracuse Herald because they did this full, huge article on him because he's always the first responder to every single fire call at the age of 76 years old. And this is who he was. He was a person who was self-sufficient, a man of service his entire life, and a man of just perfect integrity. Now, I overlay his life on mine, and I try to take the best characteristics of him, but I'm blessed that I can do it with a Christ-centered life. So if I can combine that with all the things that he gave me, I'll be a successful grandparent. Thank you.